start. And I want us to just start by taking a seated posture, and you're going to sit however feels good to you. Okay. And the invitation is to just allow yourself to close your eyes and check in and see how the body's feeling. And you'll notice how the breath is feeling. And we're going to use this as our baseline that we'll come back to. So when you're ready, you'll just take your right hand and slide it behind your back towards your left hip. Reach around with your left hand and maybe either grab your right elbow, your right forearm, or whatever you want to grab. And then you're going to drop your left ear over towards the left. And as the left ear drops over towards the left, you might move that right elbow a little forward and back. You might draw your chin closer to your chest or up towards the sky, but you're allowing the ear, the left ear, to drop to the left as you pull lightly on the right arm. And you're just observing and noticing what that's doing on the right side of your body. And you'll take 2 more breath cycles here, noticing how the little gentle movement feels. And at the end of your second exhalation, you'll gently release the left hand, bring it back to the left thigh, release the right hand and bring it back to the right thigh. And then we'll go ahead and try the other side. So now your left hand will slip behind you towards your right hip. Your right hand will come behind you and maybe grab the left elbow, the left forearm, the left wrist, and you'll drop your right ear over towards the right. And again, you'll notice if just gentle wiggling of that left elbow forward and back, or dropping the chin towards the chest or up towards the sky, gives you a nice stretch, release along the left side of your neck. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what you notice. And you've got about 1 to 2 more breath cycles here. And then at the end of your second exhalation, you'll gently release the right hand and bring it back to the right thigh. Gently release the left hand and bring it back to the left thigh. And you'll take this opportunity to take some small shoulder circles, maybe having them go forward or back. But we're just starting to wiggle out the body. And once you feel like you've gone both directions and you feel pretty balanced between that, you'll go ahead and come to stillness. Cross your arms for eagle arms, left arm underneath, right arm on top. And then like your little snake, you'll start to reach the elbows forward and up, coming through the spine until you feel a nice stretch happening both in the shoulders as well as in the upper spine. And then you'll snaky and come back down. Gently release and switch sides. So now the right arm is underneath, left arm is on top. And then when you're ready, you'll take your little snaky up. And it's almost like you're trying to elongate through the spine, giving extra length up through the vertebra. And then gently you'll come back down. Uncross the arms. And start to make little flamenco twirls. And reach the arms up and overhead. And then like we're picking fruit from a tree, one arm will reach higher, and then the other arm will reach higher, and you're still making these little flamenco twirls, finding a nice side body stretch. And once you're balanced between the sides, go ahead and come to stillness. Reach up through your left arm, bend your left elbow, grab your left elbow with your right hand. And you might stay here and just pull the front ribs back. You might arc the head a little bit over towards the right to puff the left ribs out towards the left. And notice if that gives you a little bit more stretch into the space between the ribs and the hips. And then gently you'll come back through center, reach up through the right arm, reach up through the left, and you'll switch sides, bending the right elbow, grabbing it with your left hand, and maybe just stay here in center if that feels good, or maybe arc the head up and towards the left so you can breathe into your right armpit, right ribs, right waist. Yep. You got 1 more breath cycle here. And then you'll gently inhale and come back through center, reach up through your left arm, reach up through your right, arms open out, happy days. They come back behind you, you interlace the fingers, and then draw the shoulders up towards the ears. Draw the shoulder blades onto the back and reach the hands back as the heart and chest comes forward. Awesome sauce. And then gently you'll release the hands and you'll take Just whatever organic movement feels good to you before we come back to a moment of stillness and see how that feels after having either done some little twists, some seated cat-cows, maybe some flexion, whatever feels best to you. And then you'll gently bring the spine back to center, back to stillness. Stack the head on top of the shoulders on top of the hips, and just close your eyes and notice what you notice about the body now. And notice what you notice about the breath now. In many ways, I think my journey to faith is this incremental process. I do something and then see what happens. And in certain respects, the yogic teachings sort of talk about this. So we're going to go ahead and cross over onto our hands and knees. I encourage you to put both blocks towards the upper outer corners of your mat and to pad your knees if your knees happen to be sensitive. And the first thing that you're going to do once you find yourself on hands and knees is we're going to do a little bit of a wrist stretch before we go any further. So from hands and knees, shoulders are directly over wrists, knees are directly under hips. Take your left hand, bring the back of your left hand to the floor so your palm faces up, the fingers point back towards your knees, and then go ahead and curl both sets of toes under. And then you might just stay here, or you might slightly shift your weight back. You might bend that left elbow, whatever you feel like you need to in order to start to open up the back of the left forearm, the left wrist. And then you'll go ahead and gently come forward. Bring the palm back to the floor and then spin the left thumb all the way to the left until your fingers once again point back towards your knees. And then again, you might shift your weight back a bit, stretching the front, or rather the back of that wrist, maybe bending your left elbow just a little bit, seeing how that feels. And then gently you'll come forward, reposition the hand to neutral, and we'll try all that on the other side. So back of right palm comes to the floor. You might stay here. You might shift your weight back just a smidge. You might bend that right elbow or not, but you're just noticing what you notice. And then you'll gently go ahead and come back to neutral, planting the right palm as it is, and then spin the right thumb all the way to the right until the right thumb faces the right, fingertips face back towards the knees. And then you might bend, or rather shift your hips back a little bit to stretch the wrist, the palm. You might bend that right elbow a little bit, noticing how that feels on your right wrist, your right hand. Great. Go ahead and bring both palms back to neutral, and you'll pause there for a moment. Send your right leg back, toes tucked under, foot on the floor. And when the right leg gets back, straighten that right leg as long as you can. Lift your head in line with the tops of your shoulders and start to hug your front two hip bones towards each other. Yep. From there, you'll lift your right leg parallel to the floor and press down through both hands and that left knee. From here, you can stay here or reach your left hand forward, palm faces in, thumb faces up. And as you do this, we've got 5 steady breaths. How can you keep drawing the front ribs in and back with every exhalation? How can you kick back more through that inner right thigh so the right toes point straight down to the floor? And then how can you lift up even more through that inner left armpit? One more breath here. And on your next exhalation, gently lower the left hand and then gently lower the right knee. And then we'll go ahead and try that on the other side. So go ahead and send your left toes back, tuck the toes under, straighten the leg as long as it can be, and then see if you can lengthen tailbone back before you lift the left leg up. Great. Go ahead and lift left leg if it's not already lifted. Draw the front ribs in and back. And on your next exhalation, lift your right arm if you'd like, parallel towards the floor. Palm faces towards the left, thumb faces up. Yep. And then notice if you can draw that outer right hip back just a smidge as you draw the low belly in. Yeah. You got 2 more breath cycles here. Can the back of the head stay lifted? The heart reach forward. Yep. Next exhale, lower just the right hand and then lower just the left leg. Now take 3 to 5 cats and cows on your own, just noticing what you notice. According to yogic teachings, they think that Prakriti and Purusha, which are Essentially, matter and spirit, or matter and consciousness, exists so that we have the opportunity to know one and to know the other. So after you've taken your 3 to 5 cats and cows, do whatever organic movement feels good to you. And again, you're just really paying attention to how the breath feels in the body, to how the body feels in certain shapes. Our ability to trust ourselves really comes from this inner knowing, this inner faith, this inner trust. And it's a gradual process that we learn through experimentation as well as through trial and error. All right, when you're ready, you're going to make your way back to a downward facing dog with both knees super, super bent, and slowly take the time once you get there to pedal through the legs as luxuriously as possible. So you can notice how the hammies are doing today, how the back is doing today. Notice how the shoulders are doing today. And you've got another 3 to 5 breaths just to move around in any way that feels nice to you, in any way that gives you information so that you can start to test, so that you can start to measure things. And I use those words deliberately because it turns out that yoga is a science. They are scientists at their core, the original yogis. Even with faith, they say not to take it just blindly, but to really experiment with it to see how it suits you. Okay, the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently come to a still neutral spot, and then go ahead and inhale, gaze towards your hands. As you exhale, step your right foot between your hands. Yep, and then step your left foot between your hands. Yep. Now I encourage you to bring your hands to your blocks, but you might not need that. It really depends on you, but you're gonna just bend your right knee a lot, straighten your left leg a lot, and see how that feels. Maybe the hands walk over towards the left side of the body and you notice a nice stretch happening there. Yep. And then gently you'll come back through center. And then you'll try it going the other way. So you'll straighten that right leg and bend the left knee, and maybe the ribs bow towards the right. And you're noticing how that feels. Yep, and then you'll inhale and come back to center. And you've got that one more time on your own, just in forward fold Uttanasana, noticing how it feels to just bend one leg and then the other. Where do you feel that in your calves, in your hamstrings, in your legs? Do you like the torso going in the same direction as the straight leg, or do you want to have it go in the opposite direction of the straight leg? You just notice what you notice. Yeah. And then go ahead and switch sides if you haven't already. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're becoming very curious. Robin did mention something at the very beginning, that some of the people that seem to have the strongest bit of faith are the ones that have been tested the most. And when you're ready, go ahead and come back to a neutral position, forward fold, top of mat. And then we'll go ahead and add on. So from here, inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. When you get there, bend your knees quite a bit to lift your spine parallel to the floor. See if you can make your spine super parallel to the floor. Yep. And then exhale, fold all the way in. Great. Now this time, let's inhale and bend your knees to about a 90-degree angle. As you exhale, draw your hands to heart center and bring your spine up to vertical. Great. Now continue to bend the knees, and maybe you stay here with your hands at heart center. Maybe you release them down alongside your hips, and maybe you reach them up and overhead for Utkatasana variation. And wherever you are, you're just taking a moment to notice the breath, reaching up through the fingers if the arms are long, reaching down through the legs. Next in breath, stand up, reach up, look up. And as you exhale, see if you can root down from the legs into the feet as you reach up through the arms a little bit more to separate ribs from hips. Nice job. Take one more breath. And as you exhale, hinge at your hips, forward fold, Uttanasana. Great. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. As you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step your left leg long and back, long lunge. So with your left leg long and back, you might walk your left arm a little bit towards the left if you'd like. And then inhale, reach your right arm out to the right and up and over your head. So a little twist, yep. And then exhale, wrap that right arm over your right thigh, under your right thigh, tuck your right ribs under, touch your left armpit. Yep. And then inhale, open the arm back out like an airplane. And exhale, wrap under. And you've got 4 more of these, and you're just following your breath. So the inhalation opens the body, opens the heart. The exhalation rounds in, pushes through the foot, down into the left hand. Yep. Inhale, tail back, crown forward, arm up. And exhale, belly in, arm wraps under, push the floor away. One more time, inhale, reach out to come up. And then exhale, wrap under to round in. Nice job. This next time, inhale, open out and back, and you'll just stay here for 3 breaths. And as you're here, I'd like you to notice how you can push into both feet, how you can push down into that left hand, and then rotate from the ribs to let the heart open up. In many ways, our faith, whatever version of it that it has, our trust, our hope, is an open-hearted experience. And so we're just seeing how we embody that. Next, exhale, lower that right hand back to the floor and pause. Take a moment to push down into both hands and round your spine like a happy little Halloween cat, and then step back to plank pose, fallen kasana. Here we go. Now, once you're here, make sure the palms are directly underneath the shoulders, the feet are hip distance apart, and I want you to push down into the hands so much that it feels like, yep, your upper back rounds. Now pull the mat apart isometrically right to left with the hands and reach your sternum forward and lift the back of your head. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. See if you can squeeze your bum and squeeze your quads as you reach back through your heels. And on your next exhalation, you'll shift your weight forward and slower than you want to, lower all the way down so belly, hips, chest, and thighs all touch at the same time. Nice job. Once you get there, tops of the feet come to the floor, and you'll just inhale, pull yourself forward and through for a baby cobra to whatever degree feels good to you. We're going to do this a few times, so you don't need to go all out for the first time. Yep. And then you'll exhale and slowly lower down. Tuck both sets of toes under. Straighten your legs or not, but you'll inhale, come up through plank or modified plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. And you'll just take 3 breaths here, and you'll notice what you notice. In many ways, I think faith or knowing something will work out a particular way really requires experience. And for the yogis, it required an experience that wasn't always pleasant necessarily, but in time became better because it caused us to seek something greater. Okay, inhale here. As you exhale, step your left foot forward. Awesome sauce. Now from here, you might walk your right hand over to the right just a bit. Keep that back inner thigh lifted, and when you're ready, you'll inhale, reach the left arm out to the left and up towards the sky. And exhale, wrap the body with the left arm. Nice job, and you've got about 6 of these. So inhale, reach back through the foot, lift up through the top arm. Exhale, push down through the feet, round through the spine. Inhale, crown forward, tail back, right heel back. Exhale, push into right hand, push into left foot, push into right foot. Yep, and you got 3 more on your own, and you're just noticing what you notice. Does this repetition and movement enable you to get a little bit more twist every time you open? Does it enable you to see things slightly differently? Whether it's a modification you need to make, an adjustment, or places where you can open. Nice work. All right, the next time you open out into that Revolved low lunge, you'll just stay there for 3 steady breath cycles. You'll notice how you can draw that left outer hip back, lift up through that inner right thigh, yep, and push down into the index finger thumb of that right hand. Nice job. Exhale, lower the left hand to the floor. Listen carefully. Inhale, gaze to the top of your space. Exhale, step your right foot between your hands. Oh, buddy. Yep. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold all the way in. Keep your fingers as close to the floor as possible. Inhale here and exhale here. You might grab opposite elbow if that feels good to you, or back of head, but you've got 2 more breath cycles here. You're just noticing how the hammies are doing. You're noticing how the back is doing. You're noticing how the legs are feeling. Great. And then you'll gently release hands back down to the floor. See if you can keep fingers on floor or blocks. Exhale and bend your knees to about a 90-degree angle. Inhale, hands to heart center, chest comes to vertical, Utkatasana, chair pose. Hands can stay here at heart center, or maybe arms reach up and overhead, or maybe they just reach forward like little zombies. But you've got 3 more breath cycles here. And as you're here for Utkatasana, notice if you can bend the knees a little bit more, but lengthen through the spine. So the pelvis descends, yep, but the spine lifts. Nice job. Next in breath, inhale, reach up, look up, stand up. And then exhale, open the arms out to the side and down alongside your hips. Awesome sauce. Let's go ahead and add on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, keep arms overhead, bend at the hips, forward fold. Bend the knees as much as you need to in order to make that happen. Nice job. From here, inhale, halfway lift, fingers on shins, block, or floor. And then exhale, fold all the way in. Okay. Bend both knees, step your right foot long and back. And then spin the right foot down for Virabhadrasana 2. And you'll inhale and windmill the body up to Warrior 2. Now, as you're in Warrior 2, take a moment to adjust. Do you need to move your feet a little bit so that front knee can be pretty close to a 90-degree angle? Press down into the knife edge of your back foot, and then notice if you can reach out through both arms, extending opposite, or rather perpendicular from the shoulders. Great. From here, inhale, reach out through that left arm, lower the left forearm to the top of the left thigh, or fingertips to the floor, or block on the inside edge of your left foot. And wherever you happen to be, press down onto the pinky toe edge of your back foot. Push down into the center of your front heel and big toe. Yep. And then you might swing that right arm forward alongside your ears and pause. Now, if you're doing that, notice what happens if you keep the right elbow straight versus bending the right elbow and letting it hang over your head. You can imagine that someone tractions out the whole right arm from the right shoulder, and that might stretch more of your right side body. Awesome sauce. All right, inhale, turn the gaze towards the floor, spin towards the floor, low lunge. As you exhale, plant the palms and step your left foot back, plank pose. Great. 3 breaths here. Push down through the hands to lift up through the inner armpits. Lift up through the inner thighs, yep, and see if you can take your heart forward just a bit more. Yep. Next, exhale, lower in one piece to touch. So knees might come down first, but chest, belly, thighs all touch at the same time. Yeah, good job, guys. When you're ready, you'll inhale and draw yourself forward into a baby cobra shape. And then you'll slowly exhale and lower all the way back down. Your choice, tuck both sets of toes under, legs straight or bent. You'll inhale and come up through modified plank or plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Notice what you notice. A lot of the teachings, spiritual, both yoga and outside of yoga, seem to talk about this sense of duality, this sense of conflict is what leads many of us into faith. So we seek something bigger than the material. And so as you're here, just notice if that's what may have brought you or kept you involved in your yoga practice or whatever spiritual practices you may have. Okay, we'll go ahead and switch sides. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, step your right foot forward. Yeah. Once you're there, spin your left foot down and bring yourself up for Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. And once you're in your Warrior 2, notice if there's any adjustments that you need to make. One of the things I find very fascinating about yoga is they ask that we experiment. Nothing is to be just accepted because someone else said it. It's all about us finding what works best for us. So as you're here, I'd like you to notice any final adjustments you need to make, whether you can soften around the shoulders, reach out through the fingers and squeeze the legs together. Yeah. When you're ready, inhale, reach forward through that right arm. Right forearm might come to the top of the right thigh, or right fingertips come to the floor or block on the inside edge of that right foot. Nice. Stay here or swim that left arm in front of you and overhead. And then you might bend the left elbow and notice how that added weight might find extra length along the latissimus, the side muscles of the left side body, or if just stretching out and lengthening tailbone down to the left heel feels more opening across the front of your left hip. Nice work. Next in breath, go ahead and turn gaze towards the floor. As you exhale, come to a low lunge top of mat. Spin to the ball of the back foot and pause. Take a big breath in here and exhale, step your left foot to meet the right. Loop. Yep, so now we're to forward fold. Take a big breath in here. And exhale, fold in. Inhale, sit, Utkatasana, chair pose. Now this time arms might just reach up and overhead. They might be at heart center. You're testing based upon what you feel like you might be wanting to experiment with what you're needing. Continue to press into the big toes and slide wide, across the soles of your feet. Next in breath, stand up, reach up, look up. And as you exhale, really anchor feet down as you open the arms out to the right and to the left. Awesome sauce. Let's add on. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, bend the knees as much as you need to in order to keep your spine flat. Nice job. From there, inhale, halfway lift. As you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, and step your left foot about 3/4 of the way back. I might encourage you to put your hands on blocks, but you do whatever works best for you. And then we'll just take 3 breath cycles here. So you'll inhale, bend that front knee, and then you'll exhale, work to straighten that front leg. And you'll just try this a few times, noticing how your happy hamstrings are responding to this. And you're just noticing, you're pausing and you're breathing, you're seeing how the body is working. Great. The end of your 3rd exhalation, you'll go ahead and keep that right leg long and straight. And you might want to walk your left block back a little bit so it's directly underneath your left shoulder. Draw your right hand to the top of your right sacrum or back of sacrum, butt cheek area. And then I want you to imagine you're pulling your right hip back, pushing your sacrum back, reaching your crown forward to lift your spine parallel to the floor. Great. Now as you exhale, start to push down into that left hand. Draw the belly in on the right and turn your left ear to the left or to the floor in order to start to turn your gaze towards the right. You might notice that you can then stack the right shoulder on top of the left, and maybe you can even reach your right fingertips up towards the sky, but you're just pausing here, noticing how your revolved triangle is going. Seeing if you can lift that left ear away from the floor. Yep, and keep the whole side of the neck long. On your next exhale, there you go, Sandy. Lower that right hand towards the floor. Bend the front knee. Step back, plank pose. Your option is to stay here for about 3 steady breath cycles, reaching crown forward, reaching tailbone back. Then as you're ready, you'll exhale, shift the weight forward, lower all the way down. The inhale will draw you through an up dog or cobra, whatever works best for you. And the exhale will make your way back to downward facing dog. And then you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. Nice work. Let's go ahead and try the other side. So take a big breath in here. As you exhale, left leg steps about 3/4 of the way forward. From here, hands probably will want to come to blocks. And then you'll take 3 little pulses, bending the front knee and straightening the front leg. And you're just noticing what you notice. How are the hammies working now? When you straighten that left leg, can you draw the outer left hip back and in towards the inner right thigh? Nice. Okay, after your third exhalation, go ahead and stay with that left leg straight. From here, you might start to walk the right block underneath the right shoulder a little bit more. Press down into both feet first, and then lift your spine parallel towards the floor. From here, draw your left hand to the back of your sacrum or your left hip, whatever feels best to you. And then inhale, find more length from tail to crown. And as you exhale, start to push into the right hand to your right ear towards the floor. Face faces the left. And you might stack that left shoulder on top of the right, hugging shoulder blades onto back. You might also reach that left arm up towards the sky, and you're just pausing and you're breathing. How can you keep the heart open, coming forward to the left and then swimming back behind you just a little bit? Yep. And on your next exhale, lower that left hand to the floor. Bend the front knee, step to the top of your mat. Awesome sauce. Feet hip distance apart. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, fold all the way in. Inhale, bend the knees, sit low, chair pose. And you'll just notice how this is going. How is each repetition into this shape going? Is it becoming more stable, more familiar, more comfortable? Do you have more hope that things will be exactly as they need to? Everything will always work out. Yep. You got one more breath cycle here. On your next inhalation, stand up, reach up, look up. As you exhale, root through the feet, open through the arms, lift through the skull. Nice job. All right, last set. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, forward fold. Okay. Once you're here, highly encourage use of blocks, but you do whatever works for you. And then we'll go ahead and inhale. Bring your hands onto blocks, lift spine halfway. As you exhale, lift your right leg up and back parallel to the floor. Awesome sauce. Now I encourage you to walk the block on the left over to the left just a bit. Keep that left knee as bent as you need to keep the hips square for a moment. And then go ahead and draw your right hand to your right hip. Start to stack the right hip on top of the left hip. Lift up through that inner right thigh. So it's a happy, fun, lifted leg. Yep. And then you might reach that right hand up towards the sky for half moon Ardha Chandrasana. Nice work. Gently draw your right hand back to your right hip. Nice, Sandy. Nice, Robin. Turn your gaze back to the floor. Listen closely. Slide left hand, left block back as you reach the right foot back to come into an extended side angle with your left hand outside of your left knee. Yep. Nice job, guys. Listen closely. Start to straighten that front leg. Turn your chest towards the right and open for Utthita Trikonasana. And you'll notice that maybe that left hand needs to come to the top of the left shin. Maybe it can stay on the block. Maybe you might reach that right arm back. Maybe it'll swim up and over your head, and maybe it'll be in line with the left arm, but you're taking a moment to experiment. I think what gives people faith is they have an unquestioning sense of trust in the process, in the powers that support them. And perhaps it's because, as Robin said, they did have a challenge before and they experimented with it. Maybe they just have some natural gift that I personally admire. Who knows? But we're all working on it in our own way. Okay, draw that right hand back to your right hip. Turn your gaze to the floor, bend the front knee, plant the palms, and step back, plank pose. Option to stay here and hang out for 3 to 5 breath cycles, or option to cycle through up dog and knee back in downward facing dog. But you're just pausing, you're breathing, you're experimenting and trusting that you know, based on this inner sense of what it provides to you, this inner stability. Nice job, guys. If you're not in down dog, go ahead and make your way back to down dog. Yep, and then we'll go ahead and try the other side. So big breath in. Exhale, step that right foot between your hands. Great. Now this is an awkward one. You're going to have to shift your weight forward in order to plant your hands on the blocks and lift that back leg parallel to the floor. Loop. Haha. Nice job, guys. Now, once that left leg is parallel to the floor, bend that right knee as much as you need to. Square your hips to the floor, and then walk the block on the right over to the right just a bit. Yep. Bring left hand to left hip. And then maybe that right knee stays bent, but you'll start to stack that left hip on top of the right hip. Lift through that inner left thigh as much as you need to and roll your chest over to the right and stack it on top as best as you can. Nice work. Maybe left hand flies up, maybe it reaches up, maybe it doesn't. Yep. Lift the inner back thigh just a bit more. Yeah. When you're ready, left hand comes back to the left hip. Turn your gaze towards the floor. Bend your right leg, slide the right block back, the left foot back, and come to extended side angle with your right hand outside of your right knee. Yep. Pause. We've been here before. Notice how it's going. When you're ready, you'll start to straighten that front leg, and maybe that right leg or right hand needs to come to the top of the right shin. Maybe it can stay on the block. But then you'll slowly peel the chest towards the left. Maybe reach the left hand back towards left hip, up towards the sky, or up and over your ears. Yep, press your right shin forward just a little bit, Robin, so you don't hyperextend. Nice job, and you got one more breath here. On your next exhale, draw that left hand back to the left hip. Turn your gaze down towards the floor, come into a low lunge. Listen closely, step your back foot to meet your front foot. Loop. Back foot to meet your front foot. Awesome sauce. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold all the way in. Yeah, that looks nice. Great. Inhale, bend the knees low, sit, chair pose. Now, as you're in chair pose, hands can be wherever they need to be. But I want you to notice that you can push down into the balls of the feet. You can spread wide through the soles of the feet. And the more you isometrically pull the soles of the feet apart, it feels like your outer hips engage. Yep. And then notice if you can push down into the big toe mounds to roll the inner thighs down. And then lift up through the sternum, and then maybe lift up through the arms. If the arms are lifted, maybe bend the knees a little bit lower to sit to your depth. Our faith takes us to new depths, new heights, new everything. Yeah, there we go. All right. Inhale, stand up, reach up, look up. Yep. And just pause here. I want you to really press down through your hips. Like I'm standing behind you and pushing your hips to the floor. Do that, but reach up through your hands and draw your front ribs in and back. Yep. Exhale, open the arms out and down to the hips. Great. So this last one is not going to be the exact reverse like we've been doing all along, but it's somewhat. Okay. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fingers reach forward and down, forward and down, forward and down. Nice job. Once you're there, bring your hands to your blocks. Inhale, lift your spine parallel to the floor. Great. Now as you exhale, bend your knees quite a bit, and you're going to lift your left leg back parallel to the floor. So that right knee may need to stay pretty bent. Keep your shoulders and hips pretty squared to the floor. Drop that out. Yep. Now from here, you might just reach your right hand forward like we're doing a bird dog thing that we did at the very beginning. Oh, buddy, man, look at that. Suddenly that's a whole lot harder than we thought. Great. Bend your right elbow, draw your right hand to your right shoulder. So really touch your right shoulder with your right hand. Great. Inhale, lengthen through your spine, reach back through your left foot. As you exhale, draw your outer right ribs back. Start to wrap your right shoulder on top of your left and maybe turn your gaze towards right. And you'll just pause here. Length is first. Well, stability is first, length is second. And then when you're ready, you might potentially open the right hand up. Keep the outer left hip lifted even as you rotate. Yep. And on your, good job, guys. Next, exhale, lower that right hand back to the floor. Step the left foot forward to meet the right and pause. Oh, buddy, forward fold, hang it out, see how that's going. Just check in, notice what you notice. And then we'll go ahead and try the other side. So inhale, halfway lift, spine parallel to the floor. As you exhale, bend your knees, hands on blocks. Gently, you'll extend that right leg back parallel towards the floor. Yep. Keep your shoulders and hips square to the floor. And then with that left knee pretty bent, start to reach your left arm forward. So the left knee stays bent so that we can try to keep our hips and shoulders square to the floor. Our arms aren't nearly as long as our legs, so that helps with that. Next, exhale, touch your left shoulder with your left hand. Inhale, find length here first. As you exhale, start to draw the belly in on the left side, rotate left ribs to the left, maybe stacking left shoulder on top of right. Keep lifting through inner right thigh, reach back through right foot a lot. Nice job, guys. Maybe left arm reaches up. Nice work. Very gently lower left hand back to the floor. Bend your front knee, reach the right foot back. Step the left foot back, plank pose. Pause here. Highly encourage you to put a block between your upper inner thighs, but you do whatever works for you. Now I want you to push down through the hands, lift up through the inner armpits, squeeze that block for dear life, hugging all the muscles around the legs. Now lift your pelvis just a little bit. Roll to the left or the knife edge of your left foot. Stack your right shoulder on top of your left, right hip on top of the left. Sandy, draw your right hand forward just a little bit. Yep. And then gently you'll come back to plank. And when you're ready, you'll try Vashisthasana side plank on the other side. And you're just hugging into that block, stacking your left hip on top of the right so it doesn't swing back. So draw it forward a little bit more. Yep. And then when you're ready, come back to plank, then come back to downward dog, knees as bent as they need to be, squeeze that block for dear life. We're gonna pause here for 3 breaths. So you're hugging into that block, almost like a Pez dispenser, shooting that block back behind you, finding length into your spine. And then gently, you'll go ahead, release the knees to the floor. Bye, Sandy's wife. Remove your block and go ahead and sit. And you can either just sit straight up or you can rest in child's pose if that works for you. But you've got 3 breaths and you're just going to check in and notice what you notice. How is the body now? How is the breath now? Great. Okay. If you're in child's pose, gently go ahead and come up to sit. And then if you're sitting, bring your pelvis to the floor and extend your legs out in front of you. So back to Dandasana. You might sit on a blanket if that works for you or not. We're just going to end with a few little trips around the hip before we go into our final resting pose. So cross your right leg over your left. And then you'll wrap your left arm around your right leg, right arm behind you. Maybe you bend the bottom knee, maybe you don't, but we're just going to take about 3 breaths to twist towards the right. So not a big, long time, just enough to unwind the vertebra. We did a lot of twisting today. Some sauce. Take 1 more breath cycle here. And then gently you'll unwind, come back to center. Keep your right leg as it is, but see if you can drop your right knee on top of your left. So we're in half Gomukhasana legs. And then from here, you're just going to start to hinge forward at your hips, flex through your left foot a lot so the toes are pulling back towards your face. And you're just going to pause and breathe here, noticing where you feel stuff in either the back of the body, the outer hips, the low back, and you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing how this feels now. Robin, pull your left toes back towards your left knee a little bit more. Yep. And then very gently, you'll come out of this. Hold on to your right ankle and bring your right ankle in line with your right sit bone. Hold on to your right ankle again and swim your right knee forward, your right ankle back. And you might need to remove any flesh separating that, or rather between the right knee and the right calf. And you can stay here happy as a clam. You can start to shift your weight back. It's quad stretch of your choice, but we're going to be here for about 3 to 5 breaths. So you might stay there. You might bend the left knee. You might lay all the way down. It's totally up to you, but you're paying attention to the stretch that's happening on the right leg, happening in between the belly of the thigh. So not at the knee, not at the hip, but right in the middle. And if you are on your forearms, push down into your forearms to lift the heart. So the shoulder blades really support the lifting of the chest. Yep, and you've got about 3 more breath cycles here, and you're just observing how you're feeling, how the body's working. Awesome sauce. Very gently, you're going to come out of the shape and extend both legs forward. Yeah, nice job. And you might circle your happy ankles. Yeah, we should really call all the parts of our body happy. I wonder what that would manifest for us. Right? Happy ankles, happy necks, happy hips. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and try the other side. So you'll bend your left knee, put your left foot on the floor, cross your left leg outside of your right, and then hug that left knee in, and just a gentle twist towards the left. And check in with that right leg. Make sure it's still active. So we're twisting, but the right foot, yep, is super active. Nice job. Last breath cycle here. And then very gently, you'll inhale and unwind, come back to center. Stack your left knee on top of your right. And then you'll start to hinge forward at the hips, still pulling right toes back towards your face. Nice little hamstring stretch, possibly. You might feel this in your low back or your outer hips, and you're just pausing and you're breathing. You're noticing all that stuff that's going on in your leg, but where can you soften? In many respects, it does seem like it takes a crisis for us to develop faith, but what if we had the ability to have reverence or gratitude or whatever you want to call it when things are going swimmingly? Where could we soften? Where could we drop some of our guards to just really trust that everything is always working out for us, for our highest good, and the way in which we can be of most service to those that we love, as well as those that we may never ever meet? All right. Very gently, you'll inhale and come back up. Uncross that leg and plant it in line with your pelvis. Grab your left ankle with your left hand, swim the knee forward, the ankle back, and then your quad stretch of choice. So you notice if you need to adjust things differently for this side. Our left side is different than our right, and that's a-okay. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. My friends that are on forearms, if you're on forearms, think of shoulder blades or push down into forearms so shoulder blades come onto back and heart lifts. And if you're completely on your back, can you lengthen your tailbone forward towards that left knee so you can, yep, really target that stretch perhaps in the belly of the thigh. And you've got about another 3 to 5 breaths here, depending upon your rate of breathing. And you're just noticing what you notice. When you are ready to come out of the shape, you'll gently come back out the way you went in, grabbing that left ankle and extending it forward. Awesome sauce. Okay. So last little thing that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to extend both legs long in front of you, Dandasana, and then we're going to lower down onto our elbows. Now, when you lower down onto your elbows, you might need to lift your pelvis to slide your tail forward so it doesn't hurt if you've got a bony butt or just you're on concrete. And then from here, push down through the elbows, lift up through the chest like a flapper girl and see if you can reach your heart forward. And you might just stay here. You might slide your hands forward and come onto the crown of your head, but there's literally no weight in the crown of your head. The shoulder blades are hugging onto the back body to lift the heart. And after you've taken about 3 to 4 breath cycles there, you'll just lower onto your back. Nice job, guys. And once you find yourself on your back, you'll just pause. And you'll do the same thing that we did at the very beginning. I want you to just check in and notice how the body feels now. Notice how the breath feels. Notice any thoughts that might be active and alive. And as you're checking in, I encourage you to just notice if there's anything else that your body feels like it needs in order to complete your practice. And you'll go ahead and do that. You might feel like just staying here and watching sensation as it rises and watching sensation as it falls. One of the things I hope that my practice will give me is this ability to just let go, to trust and surrender that I don't need to control everyone or everything in order for things to work out. That source, that life, that whatever you want to name, what created each of us, that it's benevolent, it's kind, it's loving, it's generous, it's abundant. And so, as you're here for these last few moments, I encourage you to notice and once again come back to the question we started with. What does faith mean to you? But now we'll ask, how do we embody it? How does it show up in our lives? How might we wish it to show up in our life? And while I presented a very heady question, to the best of your ability, can you just sense what that feels like in your being? Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back, just take a moment to check in, to notice whatever you happen to notice. If there's any part of you that longs to linger in this shape, just stay here. Otherwise, you'll start to invite in gentle movement into your physical form, stretching, wiggling, and yawning in any way that feels good to you. Those in stillness, stay as long as you'd like. Those in movement, you'll gently start to make your way to one of your sides. Roll your chest more towards the floor and press yourself to a tall, comfortable seat. And then as you're seated, go ahead and soften the gaze, close the eyes. Position the arms and the body, the shoulders and the head in whatever way feels best to you. And then we'll just complete our practice with about 3 audible exhales, using every exhale to soften any of the tension we no longer wish to carry forward, allowing every inhalation to just bring us inspiration, trust, faith, hope, belief. Go ahead and bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. The light within me honors and salutes the light, the trust, the hope, the faith within each of you. Namaste.